Welcome to this special video. Within this video, we will go into the cycles of civilization. You can see on the top the astrological ages. These are from the History of Consciousness course, which I also use there. We will not go into these in this video as they are mainly used as a framework for the course itself. So I will be going specifically into the age of Taurus and Aries within this video and not the other ones because, well, there's the most information regarding these astrological ages. So, Taurus and Aries, where there's not much information regarding the earlier ages. And, well, the current one is still ongoing. So it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly. And we'll be focusing on Egypt, Greece, and Rome specifically within this episode, before going deeper into essence and form, which also ties into, what's going on regarding civilization. Ma'at also playing an instrumental role in that as well when it comes to Egypt. And if you are, by the way, interested in astrology and the cycles it talks about, I highly recommend to check out Mosdala. She can do readings for you and also makes videos on astrology, along other cool videos that are worth checking out. So if that would interest you, please check that out. But coming back to the video. The concept of the cyclos is first elaborated in Plato's Republic chapters 8 and 9. And these are, important regarding what we're going into, mainly because of, it talks about this particular cycle, the cycle of civilization that we're talking about. According to Polybius, who has the most fully developed version of the cycle, it rotates through three basic sorts of government, namely democracy, aristocracy, and monarchy. And therefore, the three degenerate sorts of each of these governments, namely ochlocracy, oligarchy, and tyranny. And according to him, originally society is an ochlocracy, but the strongest figure emerges and sets up a monarchy. The monarch's descendants, who due to their family's power lack virtue, become despots, and therefore the monarchy degenerates into a tyranny. Due to the excess of the ruler, the tyranny is overthrown by the leading citizens of the state who establish an aristocracy. They ignore virtue too quickly, and therefore the state becomes an oligarchy. And these oligarchs are overthrown by those who set up a democracy. And democracy soon becomes corrupt and degenerates into ochlocracy, beginning the cycle anew. That's according to Polybius. Machiavelli also wrote about this cycle during the Renaissance and appeared to have adopted Polybius' version of the cycle. The cycle I am using, however, goes from monarchy to aristocracy to timocracy, oligarchy, civil war, tyranny, democracy, state cult, and finally collapse. And mine is based both partly on, the previous work done by Plato and Polybius, but also, looking through history itself. So now let's go a bit into how this cycle works. The old empire decays and tribalism throughout the empire awakens, which is at the end of a previous civilization. Different tribes fight each other until a new foundational myth is created, which unites the warring tribes that once made up a single kingdom or empire. And this new mythology, which oftentimes comes in the form of a new religion, unites the people again, and from this a new kingdom emerges. And the aristocracy of this new kingdom, especially in the beginning, still honors their virtues and beliefs. But over time, democracy sets itself up where rulers are motivated by ambition or love of honor. Eventually, These warrior kings bring back a lot of wealth through all their conquests, and then the democracy starts to become an oligarchy where those with wealth rule. And it is often in the period between the democracy and the oligarchy that a civil war is starting to spread through the country, where old nobles of the democracy are fighting with the oligarchs, spreading out, in a more broader civil war. And these stages are not all cut and dry either. So they are very much, they're very much overlapping in a lot of ways. But now coming back to it with the civil war, often but not always a tyrannical figure is, taking over amidst the chaos. It tends to happen a lot. Think Julius Caesar or Napoleon Bonaparte. And the populace, later feeling exploited by the tyrant, rebel and set up a democracy. And then within the democracy, at some point, you'll have multiple gods who compete with each other, or in a modern sense, ideologies. The oligarchs can still remain fairly influential within the democracy. And at the end of the era of democracy, you often see some sort of state cult forming from one of the ideologies or gods that competed within the democracy, or, emperor worship. And this state cult is to be revered and paid homage to by all people in order to show their allegiance to the state. And from the state cult, an emperor will arise who, tries to keep the empire together, but finally cannot. And it is then within these chaotic times that internal tribalism will re-emerge and the cycle starts again. Sometimes also external factors playing an important role alongside this. But what I also can say already very much is that things such as Ma'at, that I'm going to go into in a bit, but also, form and essence that I will be talking about later at the end of this video, are very much important within this as well. So I'm going to go into some of these essences that are important in, why this tends to keep happening, this collapse and this slow disintegration of civilizations. So like I said before, going into Egypt itself, I want to talk about a concept that is key to understanding this civilization. That would be Ma'at. And Ma'at is a fundamental concept in ancient Egyptian culture and spirituality. And it represents the idea of divine order, balance, and harmony, where people were expected to live their lives in accordance with Ma'at, which encompassed principles of truth, justice, and moral integrity. And this concept extended to various aspects of life, including family, community, the nation, the environment, and the relationships with the gods. And in Egyptian ideology, Ma'at was essential for maintaining cosmic and social order, which was seen as necessary for the well-being and prosperity of the two lands, referring to Upper and Lower Egypt. Thus, individuals were expected to uphold Ma'at in their actions and interactions with others. Then when it comes to restoring Ma'at, Horus also plays a very important role in this. He is also a very prominent, deity in Egyptian mythology. But yes, Horus was often associated with kingship, and the pharaohs were believed to be the earthly embodiment of Horus. And he was also known as the protector of the pharaoh and the god of the sky, war, and hunting. And in many Egyptian myths, Horus is depicted as the avenger of his father Osiris, who was murdered by his brother Seth. And the conflict between Horus and Seth was seen as a struggle to uphold Ma'at and restore the rightful order, as Osiris was a symbol of divine kingship. Ultimately, Horus triumphed, symbolizing the restoration of cosmic and social order. There's then also a connection between the Egyptian god Horus and the Jungian self. Horus, representing the divine child in the beginning, becoming the hero linked to ego consciousness, and finally the self, when his eyes become the sun and the moon. In Jungian psychology, the concept of the self is central to an individual's psychological development. The self represents the integration of an individual's conscious and unconscious aspects, aiming for wholeness and balance. And Jung noted that myths and religious symbols often reflect the process of individuation, in which one becomes a more complete and integrated person. In Horus's journey to restore Ma'at and assume his role as a ruler and protector, can be seen as symbolic of this journey of individuation, where an individual strives to reconcile conflicting elements within themselves and achieve a state of balance and harmony. And like I said, the pharaoh representing the embodiment of Horus within, the physical world. Horus also being represented as the good counselor of the pharaoh. Ma'at in its essence is also then a concept deeply intertwined with the harmonious balance of various aspects of existence, including the individual, spiritual, and cultural elements, communal and social dimensions, archetypes, the collective unconscious, and the ecosystem. And it serves as a unifying force that helps, to maintain equilibrium and order across all of these realms. And this profound and ancient Egyptian concept reflects a holistic worldview in which every facet of life is interconnected and interdependent. So it underscores, the understanding that achieving balance and order in one realm is essential for the well-being and sustainability of the others, The individual as a microcosm of the greater whole is thus also encouraged to embrace Ma'at in their personal choices, thus contributing to the harmonious functioning of society, culture, and the natural world. By aligning personal values and actions with the principles of Ma'at, individuals would become active participants in the broader tapestry of life, fostering a sense of purpose, moral integrity, and a greater connection to their communities and the cosmos. And in a spiritual and cultural context, Ma'at acts as a guiding light, illuminating the path towards ethical and moral behavior. It encourages the adherence to shared values and rituals that underpin societal unity and preserve the wisdom of generations past. And also, go into this much more in the history of consciousness course as well. Then when it comes to the communal and social sphere, Ma'at serves as the cornerstone of a just and equitable society. It calls for laws and norms that prioritize fairness, cooperation, and the well-being of all members. And when individuals and communities collectively uphold the principles of Ma'at, it nurtures an environment where harmony and justice flourish, allowing for the peaceful coexistence of diverse people and interests. And when we take this to a Jungian level, in the realm of archetypes and the collective unconscious, Ma'at would then represent the eternal struggle to reconcile opposing forces and find inner and outer balance. And it mirrors the psychological process of integrating conflicting aspects of one's psyche, leading to personal growth and self-awareness. And in this sense, Ma'at is a reflection of humanity's enduring quest to understand and harmonize the complex interplay of our own inner worlds, but also with our outer world as well. And lastly, in the realm of the ecosystem and the natural world, Ma'at embodies the wisdom of the ancient Egyptians in recognizing the intrinsic connection between humans and their environment. By preserving the land, its resources, In the delicate balance of the ecosystem, they ensured the prosperity of their civilization. Ma'at's influence extended to the responsible stewardship of the earth, emphasizing the importance of living in harmony with nature, an idea that continues to resonate strongly in contemporary discussions of sustainability and environmental ethics. So in my, humble opinion, I would also say that a concept such as Ma'at also has a real value there as well. That aside, next to the real value it had regarding the upkeep of civilization itself, especially connected to figures such as Horus, which we're gonna go into now. So when it comes to, the Horus myth and the cult of Isis, both of them are central to Egyptian religious beliefs. Isis, was a powerful goddess and the mother of Horus. She played a crucial role in protecting and nurturing her son, and her love and devotion to him were seen as legendary. And the cult of Isis gained immense popularity and extended beyond Egypt, influencing other Mediterranean cultures as well. And overall, the Horus-Isis mythology reflects themes of family, love, protection, and the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And with it also a strong link to individuation itself. And if you're interested in learning more about this, I have a full episode regarding Ma'at, Horus, and the cult of Isis, all wrapped up in a nice bundle on my Patreon regarding my history, of consciousness course. But then coming now to the first cycle regarding Egypt, because Egypt went through multiple cycles, this being the first one. So the Old Kingdom of Egypt spanned from around 2700 to 2200 BC, and it was characterized by strong pharaonic rule. The pharaohs were considered in this time divine figures ruling with absolute authority. They oversaw the construction of monumental structures, particularly the iconic pyramids, which became symbols of their power and permanence. Supporting the pharaohs was an aristocratic class of nobles and officials. These individuals played a crucial role in maintaining the monarchy's authority and overseeing the construction of grand projects. And they were granted privileges and wealth in exchange for their loyalty and service to the pharaoh. And as the Old Kingdom neared its end, a shift occurred. A powerful oligarchy emerged in the form of provincial governors known as nomarchs, and these provincial leaders began to assert their influence and autonomy. The central authority of the pharaoh was thus gradually weakening. The transition to the first intermediate period was a turbulent phase in Egyptian history. The weakening of centralized authority and the rise of the nomarchs led to regional conflicts and struggles for control. And these tensions culminated in civil wars and the rise of regional rulers who often acted independently of the pharaoh's authority. Throughout the Old Kingdom, the state cult of deities such as Ra, the sun god, and Osiris, the god of the afterlife, remained a central aspect of religious and political life. So these deities, still held a significant importance in the belief system of ancient Egyptians. And with it also Horus still playing a very important role. The first intermediate period itself, lasting from around 2200 to 2050 BC, marked a period of political fragmentation and a significant collapse of centralized authority in Egypt. And during this time, The weakening of the Old Kingdom's central authority resulted in a chaotic and fragmented political landscape. Regional rulers, including the nomarchs and other influential figures, competed for control over various territories. And this competition often led to rival power centers emerging across the country. And with the disintegration of central rule, this also had economic consequences. Resources that were once directed towards monumental construction and the maintenance of a strong central government were redirected towards regional interests, and this shift contributed to an economic downturn. The social fabric of Egypt was thus also strained as political instability and economic decline took their toll. The population faced challenges and social unrest was not uncommon during this period. And now we are entering the age of Aries, but still Egypt. The period of chaos did not last very long until Egypt was again restored. The Middle Kingdom, which spanned from around 2050 to 1750 BC, was marked by the reunification of Egypt under strong monarchs and the establishment of the 12th dynasty. The pharaohs during this period played a pivotal role in reasserting centralized authority and reunifying the country. Ma'at and their mythology playing an important part. The aristocratic class continued to be a significant force during the Middle Kingdom. They supported the monarchy and actively patronized art and literature. This support contributed to the flourishing of cultural and intellectual pursuits during this era. In contrast to the growing influence of provincial elites during the previous kingdom, the Middle Kingdom saw the central authority of the pharaohs remain strong and relatively unchallenged. The resurgence of centralized power was a key characteristic of this period. However, the transition from the Middle Kingdom to the Second Intermediate Period was marked by civil wars and regional instability, echoing previous periods of Egyptian history characterized by a fragmented political landscape. The state cult of important deities such as Amun and Hathor, but also Horus, remained an integral part of religious life. However, it faced some challenges during the subsequent Second Intermediate Period, when Egypt encountered foreign occupation and political turmoil. The Second Intermediate Period, lasting from around 1750 to 1550 BC, was a tumultuous time in Egyptian history. It was characterized by political turmoil and fragmentation. Egypt was invaded by the Hyksos, who occupied the northern part of the country. The Hyksos rule marked, a foreign occupation of Egypt, which was a significant departure from the strong centralized authority of the Middle Kingdom. The Hyksos introduced new elements into Egyptian culture and administration as well. And generally, the Second Intermediate Period marked the collapse of the centralized state, with regional power centers emerging. The Hyksos ruled in the north, while a rival native Egyptian dynasty persisted in the south. This division further contributed to the political fragmentation and instability. Then finally, the New Kingdom, which is the third and last cycle. This cycle spanned from around 1550 to 1070 BC. And it marked a resurgence of Egypt under powerful pharaohs like Thutmose III and Ramses II. These pharaohs expanded Egypt's influence through military conquests and diplomacy. The New Kingdom was characterized by a strong central monarchy with territorial expansion and imperial ambitions. The aristocracy also played a crucial role in supporting the monarchy during the New Kingdom. They not only supported the military campaigns, but also benefited from Egypt's territorial expansion through wealth and land acquisition. After the decline of the New Kingdom, Egypt entered the Third Intermediate Period. During this phase, local elites exert greater influence as central authority became fragmented again. The pharaoh's authority was not as centralized or powerful as during the Middle Kingdom. So the transition to the Third Intermediate Period was marked by internal strife, including civil wars and regional tensions. The central authority was weakened, leading to the breakdown of unity within Egypt. The state cult continued, however, to be an integral part of religious life during the New Kingdom. It was a period of religious diversity in the continued veneration of traditional deities, including Amun-Ra and Osiris. And still, the Horus myth being an important part at this time as well. However, the Third Intermediate Period, spanning from around 1070 to 712 BC, marked a period of significant change and challenges for Egypt. The Third Intermediate Period saw a decline in centralized authority. Egypt became politically fragmented, with local rulers and power centers emerging. And this period of political fragmentation created a power vacuum and left the country vulnerable to external threats. Egypt also faced foreign invasions, including the arrival of the Sea Peoples. These invasions contributed to the decline of centralized authority and further destabilized the region. Now, when it comes to the Sea Peoples, they were responsible for several waves of invasions and migrations during this period. They targeted regions such as Anatolia, the Levant, and Egypt. And they also targeted some of the most powerful empires of the time, including the Hittite Empire, Mycenaean Greece, and Egypt, among others. And their attacks contributed to the weakening and eventual collapse of these once mighty civilizations. Egypt narrowly evading, this total collapse, but being very weakened after this. But the invasion by the Sea Peoples, combined with other factors like natural disasters, famine, and economic troubles, led to a breakdown in political, economic, and social structures. And this instability caused the collapse of cities and the disintegration of states. With the Sea Peoples, migrations and invasions also disrupting trade routes, technological exchanges, and cultural connections between various civilizations. And this led to a period of cultural decline and isolation. What I also have to point out regarding the Sea Peoples is that the exact origin and identity remains a topic of debate among historians. But when it comes to Egypt, Egypt in the end saw the establishment of foreign monarchies during the Third Intermediate Period and after as well. And these foreign rulers held sway over different parts of Egypt, leading to a complex political landscape. Think also later Alexander the Great, the Ptolemaic dynasty, and eventually Rome. Where also eventually they lost touch with rituals connected to the concept of Ma'at, with the final collapse of Egypt around the time of the collapse of Rome. Much like Egypt, ancient Greece had its origins in a period of monarchy where city-states were ruled by kings or monarchs. Notable early examples include the Mycenaean civilization. However, by the time of classical Greece, monarchy as a predominant form of government had significantly diminished. Following the decline of monarchy, the aristocratic era emerged in the development of city-states. And powerful noble families and city-states like the Spartans gained prominence. City-states were often governed by an aristocratic elite, and this was a characteristic feature of the early polis during the Archaic and Classical periods. As aristocratic power waned in some city-states, oligarchic rule emerged. This form of governance was driven by the wealth and influence of a select few. Notable examples include the oligarchies of early Greek city-states such as Thebes, but also there were some of those elements as well in Athens, despite it being a democracy at some point. Civil strife and conflicts between city-states were also recurring themes in ancient Greek history. Periods of civil war and internal discord were not uncommon, with the Peloponnesian War serving as a major example of protracted conflict during the classical period. Religion and the state cult also played an integral role in Greek society and governments, as much as with Egypt, but in a different manner. The veneration of gods such as Zeus and Athena influenced both public and private life, with religious rituals and festivals being a significant part of Greek culture. Apollo, especially linked to the Corybantes and other wolf warriors, also playing an important part. Apollo, being a figure that is both a hero and symbol of the self, represented as also a savior figure that was anticipated in times of great turmoil to incarnate and restore order, where he should not be seen through the Nietzschean lens of the Apollonian, which would be more a distortion of the true Apollo, which rejuvenates society. The end of the classical period saw significant changes in the Greek world, such as the rise of Macedon led by figures like Philip II and his son Alexander the Great, which marked a turning point. Alexander's conquest, which extended beyond Greece to encompass much of the known world, reshaped the geopolitical landscape. The empire created by Alexander was divided among his generals, leading to the Hellenistic era, characterized by the spread of Greek culture and influence throughout the Eastern Mediterranean and beyond. Greece eventually came under Roman control, leading to its incorporation into the Roman Republic and later the Roman Empire. The Roman conquest thus also marked the end of the independent city-states and the Hellenistic period. The Greeks also had many mystery cults, such as the Eleusinian Mysteries, which was the state cult, which was also linked to Plato. I talk more about that in the History of Consciousness course, and also the Orphic Mysteries within, that episode that's by Orpheus. And I want to go more into that regarding Orpheus, specifically when it comes to this video. So Orpheus was a legendary musician and poet in Greek mythology, often associated with the power of music, poetry, and his extraordinary ability to charm all living creatures, including both humans and animals. He's most famously known for his quest to rescue his beloved wife Eurydice from the underworld, next to having a deadly encounter with a group of Bacchantes, and forming the Orphic Mysteries. When it comes to the stages as described in the Orphic Mysteries, when analyzed from a Jungian lens, the concept of initial wholeness represents a state of unconscious unity where consciousness has not yet separated from the unconscious. Dionysus Zagreus, often considered the first Dionysus, symbolizes this primal, undifferentiated state of being. It can be seen as a representation of the psyche before individuation, where reason and instinct are not yet divided. And Dionysus Zagreus is a complex figure in Greek mythology. Zagreus is often considered an earlier form of Dionysus, and his myth features themes of dismemberment and rebirth. In some versions of the myth, he is devoured by the Titans and later reborn from the heart of Zeus. It is dismemberment and rebirth narrative is symbolic of the cycle of life, death, and renewal, where the Titan's devouring act can be interpreted as a symbol of the conflict between conscious reason, personified by the Olympian gods, and primal, irrational instincts, personified by the Titans. This mirrors the Jungian concept of the shadow, where unconscious, repressed aspects of the self challenge conscious reason. Dionysus' emergence as a god of ecstasy, wine, and liberation can be seen thus as the start of shadow work. And he embodies the repressed instinctual aspects of the psyche that need to be acknowledged and integrated for psychological growth. Now, coming to the Corybantes. They were ecstatic dancers and devotees of Cybele, a mother goddess closely associated with the wild and primal aspects of nature. Their rites were often chaotic and intense, representing the unbridled expression of the unconscious, and these rituals are symbolic of the process of confronting the shadow through active, uninhibited expression. They also, at the same time, protected young Dionysus as a divine child, representing the emerging self. Very much what was also part of this, what you can see with Plato's cave to the right side is the following. It's the pulling away of the unconscious projections, both in the sense of the shadow and also the anima/animus, coming closer to the self, which the Eleusinian mysteries were also about. And hence also Plato's cave is connected to as well. But coming back to the Orphic mysteries. Dionysus' later descent into the underworld confronting Zagreus can be interpreted as a journey into the depths of the unconscious, akin to the hero's journey of facing inner darkness. And this is a crucial phase in shadow work, as it involves confronting and integrating those aspects of the self that have been hidden or denied. Similarly with Osiris as well, these fragmented parts that needed to be brought together for there to be the birth of Horus. Where Iacchus, often considered a third Dionysus, can be associated with the emergence of the anima, the feminine aspect within the male psyche. This stage involves recognizing and integrating the emotional, intuitive, and spiritual dimensions that were previously overlooked or repressed. And the connection between Iacchus and Ariadne, who is associated with the labyrinth and the thread that guides Theseus, suggests the idea of finding one's way through the complexities of the inner psyche. This can be seen as a metaphor for integrating the anima and navigating the inner labyrinth of the unconscious, where finally the ascent to Mount Olympus, representing communion with the gods, symbolizes the attainment of a higher state of consciousness. In Jungian terms, this is akin to individuation, where the individual achieves a greater sense of wholeness, balance, and self-realization. And overall, the myth of Dionysus Zagreus and the associated stages in this narrative can be seen as symbolic representations of the Jungian journey towards wholeness, involving the confrontation and integration of the shadow, the emergence of the anima, and the ultimate attainment of individuation and self-realization. Now, when it comes to Rome, around 800 BC, Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus. The Roman tradition claimed Rome was under the control of 7 kings from 750 553 to 509 BC, starting with the mythical Romulus, believed to be the incarnation of the god Mars, or better said Mars Quirinus, who is said to have founded the city of Rome along with his brother Remus, which also links to Yemu and Manu from a Proto-Indo-European lens, creating the structure of civilization out of the sacrificed body of Yemu. It is said that Rome was ruled by 7 kings before slowly becoming a republic. With the decline of the Etruscans, Rome revolted and gained independence around 500 BC. It also left the monarchy in favor of a republican system based on a senate made up of cities' nobles. However, during the era of the Republic, Rome did not enjoy much peace, and during these never-ending wars it faced a serious major social crisis, the conflict between the orders. A political struggle between the plebeians, common people who were partly the nobles through wealth, and patricians, aristocrats who became the priestly class, where the plebeians sought political equality with the patricians. Even with the plebeians gaining equality, the inner struggle was far from over. The social war between Rome and its allies and the servile wars, slave revolts were harsh conflicts, all in Italy, forcing Romans to change their view of their allies and subjects. By this time, Rome had become a vast power with great wealth emanating from the conquered people as tribute, food, or manpower. But the allies of Rome were bitter since they had fought alongside the Romans, and yet they were still not citizens and shared little in the rewards. Then in January 49 BC, Julius Caesar, the conqueror of Gaul, marched with his legions against Rome, crossing the Rubicon. In the years that followed, he defeated his opponents and ruled Rome for 4 years. He tried to redistribute the wealth and also give land towards the common people, creating powerful enemies from the more oligarchic-leaning already established power structures. And after his murder in 44 BC, the Senate tried to restore the Republic, but the champions Marcus Junius Brutus, descendant of the Republic's founder, and Gaius Cassius Longinus were defeated by Caesar's lieutenant Mark Antony and Caesar's cousin Octavian. And by the end of the Republic, the city of Rome had attained a grandeur befitting the capital of an empire that dominated the entire Mediterranean, with emperors deified as living gods. Leading into emperor worship at a later point as well. But to end these conflicts once and for all regarding, all this, what they went through, by the beginning of the 1st century AD, practically all free inhabitants of Italy were Roman citizens. However, the growth of the Imperium Romanum, Roman power, created new problems and new demands that the old political system of the Republic, with its annually elected magistrates and its shared power, could not solve. The Sulla dictatorship, the extraordinary orders of Pompey Magnus and the First Triumvirate made this clear. Things changed from the beginning of the 3rd century, however. This time was defined by disasters and political problems for the empire, which was nearing collapse. The plague of Cyprian was a pandemic that ravaged the Roman Empire from 249 AD to 262 AD. The plague is said to have caused widespread shortages of manpower for food production and the Roman army, seriously weakening the empire. Saint Cyprian, an early Christian writer who witnessed and described the plague, wrote that at the height of the plague, 5,000 people a day would die in Rome. The plague nearly saw the end of the Roman Empire, which is why the history of Rome is a confusing maze of violent failures during this period. However, the success of the later emperors could only delay the end. And during the final stages of the Roman Empire, Romans had to use tribes against each other to maintain some Roman control, even though the Roman Empire was on the verge of collapse. Aquitaine was left to the Visigoths, who would soon conquer a significant portion of southern Gaul, as well as most of the Iberian Peninsula. The Burgundians claimed their own kingdom, and northern Gaul was left to the Franks. And in the early 6th century, many Roman monuments were destroyed by the citizens themselves, who removed stones from closed temples and other precious buildings, and even burned statues to make lime for personal use. In addition, most of the increasing number of churches were built this way. But when it comes to Rome, what is important to understand is how this ties to the shift from a more nature and agricultural-based society to a more city-based one, on the one hand, and also the forgetting of the ancient rites linked to both Quirinus and Mars on the other. Initially, Mars likely served as a thunder or storm deity, which accounts for some of his diverse attributes concerning fertility. This aspect was later assumed by other gods in the Roman pantheon, such as Summanus or Jupiter. The spear representing Mars's instrument, much like how Jupiter wields the lightning bolt. The animals most sacred to Mars were the woodpecker and the wolf, creatures often associated with the natural lore of the Romans, dwelling together in the foothills and woodlands. What is another important aspect of Mars, whose mother is Juno, meaning to rejuvenate, is the types of offerings he received. While some of his cult sacrifices included oxen, Mars was more commonly offered bulls, either singly in multiples or in combination with other animals. Juno, as mother goddess, was connected with the idea of vital force, the fullness of vital energy, and eternal youthfulness. And she's allied with the warriors of Mars and also thus linked to the conquering of enemies. In a Proto-Indo-European lens, such a figure has been linked to the mother of the divine twins. Though, in the Roman tradition, the twins are instead born under Mars and his consort Venus, where Juno is the sovereignty goddess. Cows were the animals mostly sacrificed to her next to goats, where Romulus and Remus are known to fight against the cattle thieves to retrieve the cattle. Which also links this not only to the Proto-Indo-European Trito, but also the Koryos warrior band and their connected rites, which was part of becoming an adult member of the tribe. Quirinus as well is linked to this. He is not only a god, but a soter, meaning savior, representing also the person who founded the state and is connected to the ancestors. And from a Jungian lens, the integration of the shadow is one part of such a ritual, where later they would undergo a Horus ritual and become part of the tribe. The Horus being this sense of sacred marriage. And this is the ritual that Rome had nearly forgotten by the time of the Republic already, only having a very superficial ritual left that was more a pat on the back than anything else. A modern equivalent would be receiving a paper saying you're an adult now, congrats. Which lacks the essence of the ritual completely. Hence now also coming to the next part about essence and form. In rituals there exists a profound interplay between essence and form. The essence of a ritual delves into the inner, spiritual and transformative aspects of the practice. It connects the practitioner to the deeper symbolic and meaningful dimensions of the ritual, fostering a connection to the self. And this inner journey often taps into archetypal patterns in the collective unconscious, facilitating a search for deeper truths and self-understanding. Conversely, the form of a ritual pertains to the external physical facets, procedures and symbols that shape the practice. This includes visible elements such as actions, recitations, ceremonial objects, and gestures. The form acts as a bridge between the inner world of the practitioner and the external shared reality. In the early stages of human spiritual and philosophical traditions, the emphasis was largely on the essence of existence. These traditions sought to explore the profound truths of life, the universe, and the connection to the inner essence of the self. In such contexts, rituals were often individually based and experiential, allowing for direct and personal connection between the individual and the spiritual or metaphysical realm, or how Jung would say, the numinous or the divine. However, as societies evolved and became more structured and complex, there was a noticeable shift from the essence to the form of rituals. These practices became increasingly formalized, characterized by set customs, and embedded in traditions. This transition resulted in rituals taking on a more communal and social dimension, reflecting the collective values and identity of the culture. And while form-based rituals are integral to cultural and social cohesion, an excessive focus on the external form can sometimes lead to a decline in the spiritual and metaphysical aspects of existence. These rituals may lose their deeper meaning, giving rise to empty, dogmatic adherence to the outward structure. And this transformation often transpires in city-based contexts under the influence of rigid dogma. And Taoism offers a profound warning about the perils of empty form in rituals. In this philosophy, rituals devoid of meaning are viewed as counterproductive and even spiritually harmful. When rituals lose their essence and deteriorate into mere mechanical actions or empty customs, they hinder one's connection to the Tao or the deeper self. Such empty rituals occur when ceremonies are performed solely for their own sake, without genuine inner understanding and sincerity. In addition to the interplay between essence and form, the realm of archetypes is also fundamental. Archetypes are primal patterns residing within the collective unconscious. So the shared deeper layer of the psyche that all humans share. And these are deeply ingrained within the human psyche. These archetypal energies form the basis of cultural complexes, which represent cultural expressions of these archetypal patterns. These cultural complexes shape the values and identity of cultures, determining behaviors and shaping societies. Annual rituals and celebrations are also an important factor in this, as it provides an opportunity for individuals to interact, bond, and strengthen social ties, which are crucial for a cohesive society. And these annual observances serve not only as a means of passing down cultural traditions, customs, and stories from one generation to the next, but it also, in a more ancient sense, was linked to such traditions as the Horus tradition or the diverse mystery schools as well. As these rituals were all yearly, and all of them were linked to individuation, with it leading to the bridging of both social and cultural dynamics with individual dynamics within the psyche, combined with this connection with the natural world itself and with it to the archetypal energies. The archetypes also playing a role in the journey of individuation, which is a journey toward self-realization and self-actualization. And at its core, it's an exploration and integration of all aspects of one's psyche, encompassing the conscious and unconscious elements. This process is about more than self-discovery. It's about unlocking one's true potential and understanding the deeper motivations and behaviors that drive them. And central to individuation is the integration of archetypal energies. This integration is a catalyst for personal growth, shedding light on the hidden corners of one's mind and leading to a deeper understanding of the self, which makes it a transformative journey that allows individuals to harmonize their inner world, leading to a more balanced and authentic existence. And at the heart of the individuation process lies the concept of the Jungian self. The Jungian self serving as a bridge between an individual's inner essence and the external world. It's not merely a concept, but a profound connection that extends beyond the individual, fostering a sense of interconnectedness. And this interconnectedness includes a profound bond with the natural world and the realization of how the individual fits into the intricate web of human structures that make up society. So think again, Ma'at. And the culmination of the individuation process is often characterized by the alignment with the Jungian self. And this alignment signifies a transcendence of the ego's limitations. And it's a transformative moment where the individual, having traversed the inner landscape and integrated the archetypal energies, steps into a state of greater self-awareness and wholeness. And the journey of individuation is a voyage of personal evolution, leading to the realization of one's true potential and a deeper connection with the world, both within and beyond. In conclusion, the interplay between dogma, cultural rituals, and the erosion of cultural identity is a complex dynamic that significantly impacts the vitality and resilience of civilizations. Dogma's rigid adherence can thus hinder the adaptability of rituals, leading to a disconnection from the profound wellspring of collective wisdom within the collective unconscious. And over time, as rituals lose their essence and meaning, they risk becoming obsolete and irrelevant, no longer serving the needs of changing environmental and societal conditions. The consequences of this disconnect are profound, as a civilization loses its capacity to adapt, renew, and revitalize its structures. So it becomes increasingly susceptible to external pressures and internal strife. The erosion of cultural identity, spiritual depth, and the ability to connect with archetypal and natural patterns can also ultimately contribute to the long-term collapse of that civilization.